Good morning, everyone. Welcome to an all-new edition of Artsbeat TV and Radio here at Westfield Community Programming, 89.5 FM WSKB, and our media partners at Agawam Media and Southwick Community Television. I'm your host, Mark Auerbach, and you've heard me last fall rave about a play called Primary Trust by Ebony Booth. It was a Pulitzer Prize winner in 2024, and I saw it at Barrington Stage in Pittsfield, and my reviews on it were raves. And then I was very fortunate back in when the Berkshire Theater Critics Awards were handed out last November. This particular production won several awards. Well, meanwhile, winter came and went. Spring is here. And Primary Trust is at TheaterWorks in Hartford until early May. Two of the stars, Justin Weeks and Hilary Ward, who were in the Barrington Stage production, are reprising their roles in the TheaterWorks production, which has the same director as both, but everything else about it is new. And first of all, I got to see the show last night, and it was so good to see it a second time because it's a beautiful, beautiful play. And it's great to welcome both of you here to Artsbeat. Good morning.
Good morning to you.
Well, first question, what did you do between the time Primary Trust closed at Barrington Stage and by the time you went back to rehearsal on it? Did you do a production of it somewhere else, or did you take on other projects?
No, we just went home, had the holidays. I live in Los Angeles, so got to spend some time with my husband and my child, and we really put it down. I didn't spend too much time on the play before we got back to it.
Yeah, same. Actually, first day of rehearsal for the show in Barrington is when we found out that this was going to be a kind of semi-co-production. So we took on the play, not realizing, took on the contract, not even realizing that this was going to be, a possibility. So I went back home to North Carolina to spend some time with my family, and just kind of put the play down. So it's been nice to revisit it.
What's it like coming back to a play that you've done before and getting a chance to redo it with the same director several months later? Did you come into it with new insights, or how did you rebuild the characters that you had?
Well, I think the foundation of what we've built is pretty much the same. I will say one of the things that stuck out to me when I came back to it was, one of Kenneth's first lines is, it's a story of how if you had told me 6 months ago if I was lonely, and now here we are 6 months later, and what a different time in our country, in the world that we're living in now. I think what was crucial and so critical about this go-round was centering joy. Not that there wasn't joy in the Barrington Stage production, but I think we just were more cognizant of like having there's a lighter energy and kind of I don't know, how would you describe it? Kind of it's I don't know, it's energized in a different way.
And I think also welcoming in our new cast members, this Bert, who is played by Samuel Strickland, raised a different Kenneth than the Bert we had in Barrington. This Bert is a little sillier. He's a little more of a play friend than a father sometimes. And so we got a Kenneth that is a little braver and a little more sure of himself than the Kenneth that we had when we were in Barrington. So those new cast members definitely helped us discover things about this play that we thought we knew really well. And we were like, oh, we never saw it this way, but let's go down this road. That sounds fun.
What attracted you to the play in the first place? Did you know it when you auditioned for it?
No, I was fortunate enough. I've known Jennifer Chang, our director, for many, many years. We went to graduate school together at UCSD, as did Samuel Strickland and Ricardo Chavira, who are in the production here, along with our lighting designer, Brian Ely, along with our scenic designer, Nicholas Ponting. So we have a very common vocabulary and way of working. But she said, read it. And if you want to do it, I want you to do it. And I read it. And as you're reading the play, it takes about 4 pages before you're completely in love with Kenneth. And I just kept turning. I was like, if something happens bad to this kid, I don't know what I'm going to do. And then you get to the end and you see that he's come through. And it made me cry. And I called her. I said, yes, whatever it takes for me to get to Barrington to do this play, I want to do it.
Yeah. What about you, Justin? I mean, when you read it, did you see it before, or did you go into the audition kind of blind with it?
I got in a call from Barrington to come in to audition for it. I had heard of the production that was at, I believe, Roundabout in New York City. But that's really all I knew about it. So the audition side that they sent me was the side in the French restaurant where he tells the story of his mom. And just like what Hilary was saying, it was one of those plays that you're kind of waiting for the other shoe to drop. But when you get to the end, it's such a sigh of relief, and what a breath of fresh air it is to see people treating one another with compassion, that every single person that he meets along the way shows up for him and sees him. And I think that's like, it's a balm,
Feels like what we need right now.
Yes.
I also, when I saw it last night, and I put it in my review for Mass Live and Berkshire on Stage, I think 30 or 40 years from now, Ebony Booth and this play will be held in the same regard as Death of a Salesman or Streetcar Named Desire, because it's a slice of life of America today that the characters are so universal in who they are. Did you know anything about Ebony Booth, the playwright, as you got involved in this?
No. I know that she was an actor, working actor in New York, and it's a very on paper it seems so simple, but the complexity with which this play is constructed, the attention to rhythm, the attention to language, it really is an extraordinary piece. I absolutely agree with you that it is one of those plays that people think, oh, I get that, I know what this is, and then you start working on it and you find just more and more and more and more layers. So I'm excited to see what she does next. I've read her play Paris, which I think is also really excellent and about right now. The issues we're dealing with right now. She's extraordinary.
And for both of you, this is your debut with TheaterWorks, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
What do you think of the theater space and the audiences so far?
I've been loving Hartford.
Same.
Yeah, the theater has been taking really great care of us. And the audiences here, I've been saying, are so heart forward, but also so mind forward. I cited on a talk back that Jennifer Chang and our associate director, Maura O'Sullivan, facilitated on Thursday, I believe. And to listen to what the audiences were picking up on. They're picking up not only on the performances and the story, but like, oh, the lights and the specific choices and the costumes and the set. So, I think in part because we're so close to New York, and this is a New York theater going crowd. They're tuned in to the work just in a different way. They're super generous.
And they're leaning in.
Yeah.
They really want to understand and be with the story and be with you. It's been great.
Yeah, it amazes me. I go to TheaterWorks a lot, and I also go to the Berkshires a lot. And you have two audiences that are very similar in a lot of ways because they're in Western New England. But the proximity to New York and Boston, they get to see a lot of theater, and it's so much different to do a show either in the Berkshires or Hartford than it might be to do a show in Kansas City or Portland, Maine, or something like that. These are sophisticated audiences.
Sure.
And I have to say, I feel very privileged to be like part of the New England like the New England company of primary trust. Because, obviously it's being done all over the place, but to be able to tell the story about this like New England suburb in these New England towns, specifically Pittsfield, which really is Cranberry,
Yes.
it's a joy. It's a joy to give it to the audiences up here.
We should tell people Primary Trust is running at TheaterWorks Hartford through May 11th. And while we're all chatting here, you can get tickets at twhartford.org. TheaterWorks is on Pearl Street in downtown Hartford. There's plenty of parking in the neighborhood. Great bar in TheaterWorks down in the lower lobby. And there's it's a beautiful building. There's a interesting art exhibition on the main floor by the lobby level, and so you might want to arrive there a little bit early, and there are plenty of restaurants also within walking distance of TheaterWorks. Again, twhartford.org. We're talking with Justin Weeks and Hilary Ward, who are two of the cast members of Primary Trust by Ebony Booth. It is the Pulitzer Prize winner. It is a play that must be seen. Hilary, how did you get into theater in the first place?
Oh my goodness. I'm from
Was it a
Indiana.
play that you saw that made you say, I got to do it, or an experience?
I think I was raised by two people who I think would have been artists if they knew that was an option. All of the paintings in the house I grew up in, my dad painted. My mom always was in dance class. I didn't know that that was unusual until I was older, but we were from the Midwest and they, went to college and got jobs, and art was a hobby. It wasn't something that you did, but I just kept having more and more and more success and getting cast in things in high school and then into college. And I said, I think I can do this. I think I could do this for real. And so I just figured, worst case scenario, I'll go home and I'll get a job just like so many people do. But I was fortunate enough to start working in New York and then get into a great graduate program and went from there. But I've always had art in my life. I'm very, very lucky that way. I think my first theatrical experience, I think I saw Aida, the opera, when I was 4. My mom took me. Yeah.
Yeah. What about you, Justin?
Same as Hillary. I grew up in an arts-loving family. I think I'm the only person who's gone into it professionally. My grandmother sings, and so does my dad. I grew up right outside of Charlotte, so I was able to go in and see a lot of theater that came through. But I think, and I've always been a performer. I've always loved to perform. I've always loved to tell stories. And then middle school comes around, which is a terrible kind of time, I think, for most people, as your body is changing, you're changing, and the world is telling you who they'd like for you to be. Theater was kind of my way of like sticking it to the man, if you will. I was able to be all these kind of versions of myself that I wasn't allowed to be off the stage. It was a way for me to a way of healing and a way of expressing myself. I don't know if I know I didn't have the language to articulate that then, but looking back, that's certainly what was going on for me. And I just couldn't stop and haven't stopped. I went on to study theater in Greensboro, North Carolina, and have been working since.
Do you do film and television as well, or you primarily consider yourself a stage actor?
Well,
I'm based in Los Angeles, so I do a lot of TV, film, commercials, but my true love is the theater. So anytime I get to work on a play, I'm so profoundly happy. And I take a scene study class to this day. I'm in class every Tuesday night when I'm in LA, and we work on plays. And part of the reason I love that class is because we work on great writers in the theater.
Do you have a preference between film versus live performance?
In not a preference, but just I like that in the theater you're getting the feedback from the audience, that they're that final factor. Whereas in film, you are trying a lot of things, but you're not in control at all of how it ends up, how it's presented, because it gets all kind of put in a blender and chopped up and put together again. So you do your part, but you don't really know what you're going to get at the end. Whereas with a piece of theater, you're part of the experience of building the final product.
One of the things I found in my very brief acting career was I did a film, a couple of them, and they were shooting a sunset scene, which they were actually filming at sunrise so they get the lighting levels right. And they kept doing the scene over and over and over again, but there was nothing leading up to it and nothing following it. It felt very remote, that scene. And by the time it actually screened, it seemed different than it did when we filmed it. Whereas on stage, there's a beginning, a middle, and an end. And if the audience is with you, you feel it and you know it, and you kind of give back to the audience, where on a film project, it's a bunch of stage hands and lighting people and people with clipboards and headsets.
Yeah, having a sincere, truthful moment on film is really a craft. It's extra. Anytime I see a real moment in a film, I know it's kind of a miracle because nothing is set up to support that kind of work, but people manage it.
Yeah. What about you, Justin? Preference to stage versus screen?
I have to say stage. Well, I can't say preference because I I haven't done film and television work. I'm
Oh,
only
okay.
now just getting. I'm now like starting to itch to kind of figure out what the film and television world is about and how to do it and I think it's so delicious. I didn't want to do film and television when I was coming out of school. I said I only wanted to do theater just because I didn't quite understand it. As we were talking about this idea of getting to set and shooting things out of order, and it felt so technical, like hitting marks and things like that. And of course, as a young actor, it's like I want to be organic, I want to feel everything, and da, 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 da. But only now am I starting to look at film and television differently, and I'm starting to get my toes in a little bit to what the film and television space is about as an actor.
It's a craft it's a variation of the craft of what we do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hilary, you say you do, stage work every Tuesday to keep your hand in the craft. Justin, what about you? Do you continue to study acting?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I have a couple of friends of mine. We just get together and we replays. I'm a member of the Woolly Mammoth Theater Company in Washington, D.C., and we have reading series there. And I'm involved in a lot of workshops and things like that. So there's a constant like building of the muscle that happens. Yeah.
When you're offered a script or you hear about a script, do you prefer something brand new like Primary Trust, or do you like to dabble in classic theater as well?
I mean, I love Shakespeare. I
Yep.
love Chekhov. I I mean, put me in a Sense and Sensibility, and I'm very happy to play in that. But every once in a while, then you get your hands on a new play like Primary Trust, and it's just a treat
Yeah.
that you get to introduce the world to this gem,
Did
which nobody knows what it is yet.
Yeah. Did you get to meet the playwright during the course of rehearsals at either theater?
No.
Jennifer, our director, had a good long conversation with Ebony leading up to the production in Barrington, and and found her very approachable and open and creative. She's one thing that you get from reading this play is she doesn't prescribe a lot what the actors should be doing. It feels like a playwright who really trusts the actors and the director to come up with the ideas that will work for them and for their production. And so, that's very exciting to me as an actor, having a writer who's like, no, I know that you will have ideas and your ideas are welcome here.
Yeah, just as we have a phrase called like the actor's director, which I think Jennifer Chang is
Absolutely.
certainly. Ebony is an actor's playwright, and that's like really evident on the page. It's so like she's so economical with her writing. Like there's not like phrasing, every piece of phrasing, every word, every punctuation, every asterisk is so intentional, and that's why it feels simple on the page. And I think I think that's all intentional. I think that she, like Hilary said, she trusts the actors to come in and make choices. Uh,
Yeah. Has your personal view of your characters changed since Barrington Stage? Because we've gone through so much globally in those few months, and you've had time to go through the performance run once and then say, well, gee, I'd like to, everybody wants to do better the next go round. When you went back into the rehearsal for the first time for Hartford, did you come back with ideas that you hadn't thought about in Pittsfield?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. For my track in particular, so much of it was about just learning and managing all of the people I have to play. That, for Karina, which is the main named character that I play, there were some things that I was executing notes that I hadn't really been able to synthesize. Whereas with having a little time with the play, understanding Justin's approach to playing Kenneth, this time going back, I thought, oh, I understand why Karina is important for Kenneth. I understand the way that she needs to be an open door for him, like an invitation to play and to relationship in a different way than I understood in Barrington. And we've had a lot of fun playing with that, exploring that.
Yeah. Somebody asked me to ask you, how long a rehearsal time did you get in terms of Barrington versus Theater Works? And when you started the first go round at Barrington Stage, did you come in with your lines memorized or did you learn during rehearsal?
No.
We had pretty much the similar amount of time.
Previews here, which is nice to see what's working and to kind of keep tweaking the tech. For one, I have a really hard time learning lines out of context. I need to know what my body is doing so then it will hook up with the intention of the line. So I almost never come in off book.
Yeah, pretty much the same. It's usually standard about like 3 weeks of rehearsal in the room, building the piece, and then we have a week of tech. And then anywhere for our preview process can be anywhere from like we had I think 4 at Barrington, and we had like 6 previews or something like
nice
here.
here.
Yes, very luxurious period of time to try it out on the audience and see what's working, see what's not working, which I know our designers really loved. Shout out to our designers who are brilliant
Incredible.
team of creatives. Yeah.
Yeah. And when you came back to rehearsal at Theater Works, how much of your characters was still in your head or did you have to go back to the script?
It's funny because there were certain things we got into the room and was like, oh man, I never said that line.
I skipped that line. Sorry, Ebony. I skipped that line for a month.
Saying that line all wrong for months and months. So just to kind of come back to it and really
With fresh eyes.
with fresh eyes, yeah. And we were able to, I guess, really play in a different way here because we knew it was in our bodies. And I think one of the things that Sam and Ricardo kind of appreciated and rare in a situation like that is like, oh, half the cast is off book when they came in, and so for 2 people who hadn't been doing the play to come in. I think it challenged them to kind of rise to the occasion a little bit, and I think it gave them permission to play.
Right.
You know.
Because we were really, Justin and I were really being silly and playing. I mean, I think part of what is necessary, especially when you're building a play with a lot of comedic moments, is to have a room that feels safe enough to experiment, to try something, and you might crash and burn. And then you might have something that really, really hits in the room, or it hits for a few days, and then it's like, oh, that's funny, but it's not quite accomplishing what we want. But I think because we were really, really comfortable with the space, we knew how it was going to be blocked, basically. Then we could get all of that stuff of figuring out, okay, where do I stand? Where's the desk going to go? We could get that out of the way, and then we could just experiment and play with each other in the scenes. So
I know that in both theaters offer talkbacks to the audience. It's a critical part of making that theatrical experience more vivid. What are some of the questions that people ask you in a talkback that surprise you?
We haven't had a talk back here yet, which I think our first one is coming up this week.
Tuesday.
Yeah. Can you remember anything that was that?
They ask a lot about what the bells mean. So a sound cue that is recurring in this play is a pretty simple service bell. And often, I mean, we have our ideas that we've talked about in the room, but often we turn that question back around to the audience, what they think it means. And Jennifer did ask Ebony about the bells, and she goes, I don't know. That's just how I heard it in my head. And so she doesn't even have a very specific answer for it, but that was a question that came up a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
I noticed the bells more at TheaterWorks than I did at Barrington Stage. I don't know whether it's because 6 months has passed since I saw it there, but I thought that the sound design at TheaterWorks is exquisite. And the timing of it, and plus the way it's lit, there's like at the top of the stage, the colors that change along with the sound, the timing is perfect. So I don't know who's running it backstage, but they've got it down to a T.
That's our stage manager, Tom Costas, who's calling the show. And he's working hard up there. There are a lot of cues.
A lot of cues.
But that, it just shows how what looks so simple and easy on stage, it takes so many people really being in sync with each other to be able to pull it off. And so it's us learning him and him learning us and the things that he's looking for. But
even our backstage crew, who is working so hard, it's just as much of a dance off stage as it is on stage. I wish people could see sometimes the show that's happening backstage.
Literally, I could not do my show without my dresser. She is handing me things. I'm switching name tags. I'm switching costumes constantly. And without her, I could not have a show. So,
people don't realize what goes on backstage during a show. I'd love to have the opportunity at some point to actually put a camera backstage and see the way the sets. I mean, I saw that you guys were moving things around every once in a while, but in the restaurant scene, there was a second waiter who was a stagehand moving things about. Everything is split-second timing in this play.
Yes. So Caroline, is running backstage and doing a quick change out of her blacks into it's wild.
Yeah.
It's wild.
What happens for both of you after the run ends on May 11th?
I'm going to go home. May 11th is actually my 17th wedding anniversary. So I'm going to go home and celebrate my anniversary. And then I'm going to Chicago to see Beyonce in concert. And then I'm not sure what's happening. We're going to do a little traveling this summer. I'm going to be doing some teaching myself at UCSD in the fall for their MFA program. I'm going to be teaching acting. And then, always auditioning and all those kinds of things. So that's what's coming up for me.
And what about you, Justin?
in the spirit of the show, I'm actually going to Arizona with my mother right after the show closes. We're going to Sedona, Arizona, just have a little vacation. I'll go back home to see my family in North Carolina for the rest of the month of May, and then I will head to Washington D.C. in June, and that's where I'll be. I'm developing a couple of storytelling workshops that I'm taking into some schools, into some organizations. So I'm in the middle of building up building up that offering, and then we'll see.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah. At Barrington Stage, the production won several Berkshire Theatre Critics Association awards. That must have been exciting, huh?
Yeah, our Berkeys.
Yeah. Our network taped the Berkey Awards, and we did a pre-show of it. So I got to go up and watch all of them, and it was just thrilling because I had reviewed so many, or interviewed so many of the people involved, winners and losers alike. It was a thrill to see the amount of talent that is on our stages in Western New England.
Yes, yes, it's impressive. It really is. The amount of really good theater happening here.
Yeah, it's a treasure trove.
Yeah. What do you like best about TheaterWorks from the time that you've been there?
I just feel like, and I noticed this the first couple of days, I was like, wow, everyone here is so good at their jobs, which I know sounds simple, but especially when you're working in the regions, you just don't always have that experience. And everyone here is just top notch at what they do. And I think the way that TheaterWorks is exceptional is their audience engagement, the way that they really reach out to the city and get people in these doors and let them know that they're welcome is huge and something you definitely don't see everywhere.
Yeah, I have to say the same. I have to say the same. And after this last week, like the audiences have been really remarkable.
Great.
So engaged and down for the ride, down to be challenged, and so accepting of something new and something fresh. We can tell that this might not be what audiences in Hartford see often, but they're so heart open. So, they're leaning forward with a generosity that's just really refreshing.
Well, Justin Weeks and Hilary Ward from Primary Trust at Hartford's TheaterWorks, thanks for being here today.
Thank you for having us, Mark.
Pleasure.
You have a chance to see Primary Trust through May 11th at TheaterWorks Hartford. TWHartford is .org is the place to get those tickets, and you better get them fast because when the reviews come out, they're going to be people jumping to get to the front of the line. And we're going to take a break here to acknowledge our underwriters, and we'll be back with more Artsbeat. Peter Coles is our chief engineer. I'm Mark Auerbach. Don't go away.
Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by the Dunkin' Donut Shops of Westfield and the Sardinia family. It's nice to know that even as the world changes, Dunkin' Coffee remains the same at 7 convenient locations throughout Westfield.
Hi, this is Harry Rock, host of Rock on Westfield every fourth Wednesday at 8 a.m. Tune in for my view of this place I call home.
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB.
Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 at 89.5 FM, WSKB Westfield.
Welcome back to Artsbeat, everyone. I'm Mark Auerbach. Peter Coles is our chief engineer today. Our guest for this half hour is Melia Bensussen, the artistic director at Hartford Stage, who's taking a quick break from the rehearsal room where Romeo and Juliet, it's that Shakespeare play that everybody knows, is in rehearsal for an upcoming performance at Hartford Stage. As I was driving out here this morning, Melia, I thought of all of the adaptations of Romeo and Juliet that have been produced over the years in opera, classical music, musical theater, film, and television. It's probably Shakespeare's most famous play.
I agree. And I think it's the play we all think we know, but we don't know it as well as we think we do, right? We know the big idea around it, which is a wonderful idea. The vision of these two lovers whose passion really almost outlives them, right? But I didn't know the play as well, Mark, as I thought I did before I started working on it.
It's funny. I studied it in high school. Everybody had to read Romeo and Juliet. I studied it at Yale Drama School, where it was picked apart line by line. But the first actual production of it I ever saw was at Hartford Stage, and it was with Callista Flockhart as Juliet. Yeah. It was she was an unknown. It was before Ally McBeal.
Completely. Mark Lamos told me what a huge leap of faith it was to cast Callista. And I think it's a wonderful thing about the role of Juliet, because we have a relative unknown in it as well. So who knows who will be saying, I saw her then.
Exactly. And the thing was, to read Romeo and Juliet is one thing, but to see it live in the theater is something completely different. I've seen 2 productions of it at Hartford Stage. Yours, I believe, is the third.
That's
up
right.
and coming. But it's the kind of play you could see again and again. And if you've seen the movie version of it, particularly the one that came out in the late 60s, I think it was Zeffirelli. It's so different on stage because the emotions and the interplay with the audience turn it into something that it should be, rather than a quick snapshot of a period in time.
I love what you're saying, Mark. I call it a bit the Mona Lisa effect, where you see a work of art from a distance and you know it's supposed to be great, but you don't necessarily feel. And with Romeo and Juliet on stage, it's so interactive, as you said. It's so alive. And it's really as much about a community as it is about Romeo and Juliet, which we forget because we think of the principal actors in it. But they're surrounded by a community that needs healing and that has a lot of festivity and joy as well as rage within it.
How many times have you directed it?
Okay, so true confessions. This is my first time on this play.
Oh my
Mark,
gosh.
when you and I talked about Winter's Tale, that was my third outing with Winter's Tale. So I feel like a novice on this play. It speaks to me so much. It's a slightly different take, I think. Well, each take, as you said, each production is different. I was really struck by the relationship to death in this play, and it's not as predictable as they were alive and then it's sad they die. I feel like there's a sense of the dead always being present with the living in this play, and that Romeo and Juliet do outlive their deaths, if I can put it that way. And I was very struck in my upbringing of the festivities in Mexico around Dia de los Muertos. And I was thinking a lot about that ball and the celebration that they have at the core where Romeo and Juliet meet, and thinking about that really being evocative of a kind of Dia de los Muertos party, and both hearkening, sort of foreshadowing what's going to happen to the couple, but also celebrating that even when you die, you're still present, especially if you've loved people greatly. Your love does outlive your own demise, which I find at this moment very meaningful.
When were you first exposed to Romeo and Juliet?
I was trying to remember, and to be honest, I don't think I've ever seen a production of it live until this year when I saw Sam Gold's Broadway production of Romeo and Juliet. So I think, like you, I had read it. Unlike you, I didn't get to see Mark's wonderful production of it here, nor Darko's. So for me, I'm really treating it like a new play.
So you have nothing in terms of your past history in theater to say, well, I saw that version or that thing, or no movie version or opera?
Okay, great question. I did actually. So I loved the Buzz Luhrmann movie. I did see the Buzz Luhrmann movie when my daughter was a teenager. I think we watched it together and we both loved it. I think that is a wonderful adaptation. And he really takes advantage of how the play works on film. What I'm loving about doing it on the stage is that, as you said, Shakespeare wrote for the stage like nobody else. His understanding of how actors and audience interact, of what a sword fight can feel like from the first row, what seeing a young woman speaking to you about how she cannot wait to see her lover. It is so different live than in these wonderful, it's just a different kind of wonderment, right? The live
Exactly.
theater experience is just it's apples and oranges here. I think to feel this play, to experience this play in our thrust stage, right, where the actors are near you, the sword fighting's near you, the weeping is with you, the joy is with you. It's infectious. I find myself gasping and weeping and laughing in the rehearsal room with this wonderful company of actors.
While we're discussing this, people should get tickets for this in advance, and you can get the show runs April 17th through May 18th at Hartford Stage. It's hartfordstage.org. And by the time this interview airs, there may be limited tickets left, so run and get them.
Thank you, Mark. It's true. I mean, it's such a popular title. And I do believe that then once between the popularity of the title and the word of mouth for the uniqueness of this production, we are hopeful. The tickets will be hard to get, so please go get them.
Well, I think it's a title that people want to see. I mean, people are curious about it, or they have an impression in their head about what Romeo and Juliet is about, or they saw West Side Story and they want to go back to the original source and go, where did that come from? I wonder if when Shakespeare wrote it, he had any idea that Romeo and Juliet would outlive him for centuries.
One wonders about all his plays, but this one in particular, I agree. It's an older story than Shakespeare, of course, right? There was a source text that was called Romeus and Juliet. And then also a lot of this is prefigured in Ovid's Metamorphosis. The story of doomed lovers just feels almost primal to us, right? That we love so greatly, and that young people and our own youths, we remember the intensity of our passion. And I read somewhere, and it's dark but true, either if about true love, about passionate love, either you die young or the passionate love dies.
Exactly.
Because it morphs, right? It morphs into wonderful, mature love, but it's different. And so the Romeo and Juliet, this play, is as much a celebration of life and passion as it is about or includes within that celebration a sense that, as a character says, all things that live must die, right? We have that in the voice of Lord Capulet bemoaning or just noting that, nothing is forever. And I think in that sense, this play is a great celebration of how we have to live to the fullest because we are all mortal ultimately.
You've made at Hartford Stage, you've made two major announcements in the last couple of weeks. Let's talk about the first one, a partnership with TheaterWorks in Hartford to bring Sweeney Todd to the stage.
Yeah, we're thrilled about this, right?
How did that come to be? I mean, I know co-productions are kind of the norm now in regional theaters. I know Barrington Stage, their primary trust is coming to TheaterWorks, and they've got some plays this summer that originated in Costa Mesa in California, and Hartford Stage has done co-productions of works in the past, but it's very unusual for two theaters a couple of blocks away to do a co-production.
Isn't it wonderful? I mean, it's really about, you're absolutely right. Co-productions have been on the rise, both for budgetary reasons, right? Economically, it can make it possible to do more work, to do larger work than our budgets might allow. But in this case, it's not only economic, but it's also this sense of trying to signify a cultural shift, that all theaters work together, that we're colleagues, that we can share resources, that Hartford needs both Theater Works and Hartford Stage and Heartbeat and Charter Oak and Goodspeed and Long Wharf. I mean, Connecticut needs all these wonderful theaters. Theater Works and Hartford Stage are literally right 4 blocks apart. And we've all known each other. We all socialize and support each other unofficially. It felt time to really join forces and say, we believe in this community and we believe in theater thriving in this community. And the way to do bigger work and excite our audiences is to collaborate on this. A fun detail, Mark, we did some research. We only have a 7% overlap in subscribers. 7%. It's a really small number. So that means there are people who love theater, who have picked one theater over another, and we're saying, come to both. And the way to invite you into both theaters is to show you this extraordinary production of this amazing Sondheim classic. And strangely enough, Hartford Stage has never done Sondheim. This is the first time Hartford Stage produces a Sondheim work. And as one of the country's premier theaters, where I feel our brand is really to celebrate classic works of all kinds, it is, if you'll forgive me, a shanda that we've not seen Sondheim on our stage. And this is a thrilling way to do it.
And Rob Ruggiero at TheaterWorks, who directs musicals all over the country when he's not directing in Hartford, his expertise in bringing a Sondheim work to the stage, especially at Hartford Stage, which has housed 2 major musicals in the last decade that have gone on to Broadway. It's a super partnership.
It is a super partnership. I was privileged to see an archival video, right? Productions are videoed in theaters, but we're not allowed to share those videos with audiences, right? They're specifically for the profession. And I was able to see Rob's previous production of Sweeney Todd. And so he's directed this musical, and he and I really share an aesthetic. If you think about TheaterWorks and Hartford Stage, what we have in common is a sense of intimacy with the audience and a sense of accessibility of the work, right? So this will not be the Broadway scale Sweeney Todd with the proscenium. This is about an immediacy of the production. It's a chamber production of Sweeney Todd that really reflects the aesthetics of both our institutions, where we prioritize the connection between the actor and the audience. And this production will do that.
I saw a production of it at the now, I guess, defunct Nutmeg Summer Theater at Yukon and Stores that was done in a smaller theater, and it was done as a concert version with the orchestra on the stage and the actors interacting. And I always felt that it didn't need to be in an opera house or in a big Broadway house, that it could be done smaller. But when Rob talked about doing it, I guess a couple of years ago he was on the program and he said it was something he wanted to direct. I couldn't picture it in TheaterWorks and how he could make any money doing a show that large in a 150-seat house. Right. But Hartford Stage is the perfect location for it.
It's the perfect location. It's a dream project of his. I am a huge fan of that musical. I love him directing it here, and I love that it will reflect the Hartford Stage aesthetic of intimacy and connectedness, and the creepiness of that show, I think, will really come through with a chamber version. So we're very excited about it, as well as the rest of the season.
Yes, so let's talk about that new season, because it's pretty exciting. There is,
Yay!
I saw it. I just actually wrote about it for Mass Live. It'll run any day now. But an American classic kind of is on it, which you're directing.
Yeah, so we had great success with the production of All My Sons that Marsha Mason starred in a couple of years ago. And I have been a fan of Death of a Salesman and Arthur Miller really since I could, since I first became aware of serious drama. And I think Death of a Salesman it's a dream play, Mark. It's a memory play. It's, I think, far less literal than people think of it as being. And I think it really speaks to all of us at this moment. It's not so much that the American dream fails Willy Loman as that he misreads the culture. And I think so many of us are trying to figure out how to succeed in this country at this time, that it's a play that really speaks to all of us. I also will share that for me, it's a very Arthur Miller's Jewish upbringing and his family's history, um, for me lives very presently, being a Jewish American as well. And so I hope to bring out those colors as well in this play. I'm
So
very excited.
what are the other plays of 25, 26?
So I'll be selfish and talk about the other thing I'm directing, but it is the season opener. It's a world premiere. First time ever this play will be done. It is a commission by Hartford Stage, which means we had the idea, we talked to the playwright. The playwright is Jeffrey Hatcher, who wrote Dial M for Murder, which much of your audience may have seen at any of the theaters it's been done in around the state and country. And he also wrote Hartford Stage's enormously successful Jekyll and Hyde. And we're doing his new adaptation of Hitchcock's Rope, a thriller, a psychological thriller, very loosely based on the case of Leopold and Loeb. But it's really a 90-minute ride of who did what and why and who will be found out that's going to open our season. I think it's going to be thrilling to start with such a suspenseful, sort of sit on the edge of your seats wondering what happens next, film noir-ish kind of production in our theater.
And it's the second time that Hartford Stage has gone to the canon of Alfred Hitchcock. There was that production before you arrived. I think it was with Kevin Bacon, Rear Window.
Rear Window, absolutely. And that was a huge success for us, of course, right? I am a huge Hitchcock fan. I don't like horror as a category, but Hitchcock to me as a psychological thriller, his genius for understanding how our brains work. It's like Edgar Allan Poe, right? Rope reminds me a bit of Telltale Heart. There's this connection on how your mind betrays you. And it's going to be a wild ride. A lot of fun for audiences.
I got to interject. I work with the Springfield
Please.
Chamber Players, and they perform a piece of music by Bernard Herrmann, who wrote chamber music when he wasn't writing the film scores to Hitchcock. So I watched one of Hitchcock's movies just to hear the music and how the music swayed the sense of thrill to it. But I think that to see Hitchcock on the stage will be exciting.
And I will say sound is really important, Mark. So I love that you brought up scoring, because we use sound design and lighting in a way to create an atmosphere, but instead of you observing it or hearing it at a distance, it will surround you, the sort of suspense. I don't know if you got to see our Jekyll and Hyde, but it's our same sound designer who really has a gift for creating mood and aura and making you feel like the sound is coming from within you as much as from the stage.
So what else? What else is on the docket for next year? We
follow that with Christmas Carol. Michael Wilson is returning. Every time he comes to direct Christmas Carol, he makes it even more special. So that is, of course, Hartford Stage is landmark, trademark, and must-see holiday production. And then we're doing the production of The Cottage, a very funny sex farce, which also has a murder. I seem, Mark, to have programmed a season full of dead bodies. And I welcome all of you who are listening or watching to come see if you can do a body count of how many people are murdered at Hartford Stage next season, both in a comedic vein and in a tragic vein. The Cottage had a very successful run on Broadway. We are going to do a new production of that play, and it's really a wonderful, right? What is a sex farce, right? It's really this kind of examination of the absurdity of our urges and how the right person at the wrong time might be the wrong person or not, right?
Exactly.
following The Cottage is Death of a Salesman. And then following Death of a Salesman is a play that was actually seen at Westport not long ago that I had programmed before Westport had announced it. And that is Karen Zacharias' play Native Gardens. And all right, full disclosure, no dead bodies in Native Gardens, but some mayhem and some close calls. And I think it's the perfect play for our community right now. It's neighbors trying to figure out their backyards and not agreeing not only on environmental concerns, but landlines, where does the fence go, and also misreading each other and making assumptions based on appearances that turn out to be incorrect and kind of dangerous. But this is, again, it is a season full of big gestures, if you will. It's a very theatrical season. So Native Gardens also pushes the envelope of comedy in the way that Death of a Salesman is not just a sad play. It's a big, tragic, heartbreaking, gorgeous event of a play. And then, of course, we end with Sweeney Todd, which you mentioned.
Melia, it all sounds fantastic. We should remind people that tickets, subscription tickets for next year, tickets for Romeo and Juliet, and the following play at Hartford Stage are
Hurricane Diane.
Yeah. They're all available at hartfordstage.org. And for those of you in Westfield and Springfield, Hartford Stage is 25 minutes down the road max. There is a parking garage next door. There are restaurants within walking distance. There's a great bar in the lobby of Hartford Stage. It's just a great place to see a show.
It is. And I'll say that if you choose to get a subscription, I know sometimes people say, well, I can't commit to certain dates. You can purchase a subscription and we will make it so easy for you to switch your tickets out at any time. And we also have, I'll do a plug for something we call the Flex Pass, which means you really can just, it's almost like a membership, and you can really decide last minute where you want your tickets and for which performance. And it's so economical. I mean, to go to the theater with one of these packages, either Flex Pass or subscription, is really a deal. You won't be spending that much, but your soul, your spirit will thank you.
Thank you for being here, Melia. It's always a pleasure to chat. Go see Romeo and Juliet, directed by Melia Bensussen.
Mark, you're the best. Thank you so much for your support for this art forum, and thank you to this whole community listening in.
Thanks for being here. And this wraps up this edition of Artsbeat. Peter Coles has been our chief engineer. I'm Mark Auerbach. We'll see you next week.
Mr. Navarro, forgive my intrusion. I needed to see you and see you today. Mr. Navarro, I have arrived at a stunning conclusion. And I feared I would lose my resolve if I didn't come here directly to see. I've decided to marry you. I've decided to marry you. I've decided, though Henry's gone, that life goes on for me. I have thoroughly thought it through, and the man that I want is you. Though it's true there are quite a few who strongly disagree. Nonetheless, I will marry you. I confess that I'm frightened too, but unless I am wrong, you long for love as much as I. This is quite unconventional, I'll admit, but why should that matter a whit? And if you do not say yes at once, I think I'll die.
Miss Dicewith, you've rendered me speechless. May I call you Phoebe?
What am I doing here? This could be dangerous if I'm discovered. Imagine the scandal, and I couldn't handle a scandal so risible. I'll stay invisible, still as can be. But what's going on in there? I can hear voices. I recognize Monty, but is that a woman? And if that's a woman, then what is she doing here? Is it the cousin? I wish I could see. If it's that cousin, it might just be business. It's family business and none of my business. But why is she here in the home of a bachelor? Of course, one could point out that I'm here as well, but does she not realize this situation puts her reputation severely in question? The merest suggestion could cause a sensation, and I cannot hear which is hell. I'll be warned not to marry you. I'll be scorned if I marry you. Still, I've decided to live my life and be a wife for me. Who'll believe how my life is turned? After grieving, I quickly learned that is nothing can bend the will like half Castilian flame. And there's goodness to sparing
Well,
you.
isn't this fun?
And a gentleness sparing you.
Isn't she done?
You've taken a wounded bird and taught her how to fly. This is my This is quite unconventional, is it not? Rather a turn in the plot, and so will I be your fiancé. Why don't you send the cow away?
Phoebe, darling.
When I recall this day, I think I'll cry.
Oh, what was that?
What was what?
That sound. Is there someone here?
Oh, pay no attention. That's my new manservant. He's just finding his way around. I'll be with you in a moment. Wadsworth! Isn't this madness? Who could foresee how one trick of timing could ruin it all? One in the parlor, one in the bedroom, nothing between them but me and a wall. Look at Phoebe, noble and pious, my esteem for her only grows. But when I am with Phoebe, I am on fire, thinking of Sibella, full of desire, passion, and dare I say it, love. But when I'm with Sibella, whom do I admire? None but Phoebe, perfect and lovely. Who couldn't love her, heaven knows. Round and round and round it goes. How happy I'd be to be at your disposal, my darling. Of course, I accept your proposal.
Now we should kiss.
That would be bliss.
Darling, but first I'll say this. I've decided to marry you.
Phoebe.
I've decided to marry you.
Sibella.
Let the trumpet I hold, the war would fall and set me free.
Then again, there's Sibella. Yes, I've decided to marry you. Marry me, Phoebe.
Look what you've done to me.
Indeed, for your gracious bestowment. Yes, Wadsworth, I told you, I'll be just a moment!
Now, Monty, dear, I think I now should go. But I still want to marry you.
Even so.
I've decided to marry you. Just go.
How I'm longing to marry you. Yes, I'm delighted to marry you, marry you, marry you. Shame you must go.